Breweries and tap rooms have never been more popular in the US, and it's easy to see why. Unlike bars, which are often blaring loud music or full of sports fans yelling at the TV, tap rooms are generally a more community-focused space full of people talking and maybe playing some games, all over a pint or two of delicious craft beer. Another thing that lends that community feel to tap rooms is that many of them, kids and dogs, are more than welcome, allowing parents to enjoy the company of their families as they enjoy a beer or two. Dogs and kids are such a common feature at tap rooms that you'd almost think IPAs came in doggy bowls and juice boxes. Many drinkers would think that the laid-back vibes of tap rooms would suffer a serious blow if dog and child policies ever changed, but that change is already beginning in some places. Hey, this is Ryan with Beer by the Numbers, and today I want to talk to you about a subject that most taproom drinkers feel very strongly one way or another about: dog and kid bans at breweries. People love their dogs, people love their kids, and people love sharing experiences with them at almost any opportunity. So it's no wonder that beer lovers want to share the excellent taproom experiences out there with their dependent loved ones. But sharing an experience that is ultimately intended for human adults with others does introduce some complications. And it's issues like this that are causing breweries to take action. So let's dive into these issues and see what breweries are doing about them today on Beer by the Numbers. Now, before I get into this topic, I want to throw out there a quick disclaimer. If you're a parent or a dog owner, I am by no means attacking your decision to bring your loved one to a brewery. I personally love going out with my friends, their kids, and their dogs. I just want to make everyone aware of the issues brewery employees and customers are bringing up. And be sure to listen all the way through this video, because there are plenty of easy solutions to most of these problems. I think I'm going to begin breaking down this heated debate by talking about man's best friend, the dog. Look at this cute little puppy hanging out in a tap room. Who wouldn't want to get a beer with this friendly face who's being such a good boy? Well, to most of us, myself included, this looks like a great drinking buddy, but to a brewery owner, this four-legged friend could represent a myriad of health code violations and potential insurance risks. In many states and municipalities around the country, many health departments classify beer as food, and as such, there are many rules dogs must follow in their spaces. Although breweries get a lot of leeway on many health codes related to animals, legally speaking, in most places, dogs are not allowed to touch any vessels meant for human consumption. This is probably the rule I see broken the most often, as many dog owners give a drink to their thirsty Fido using water glasses that were also meant for humans. Realistically though, the health risks related to something like this are pretty low, but that doesn't mean your local health inspector won't issue a fine because of it. Another rule commonly broken in a brewery setting is dogs eating or drinking on surfaces intended for humans. Again, the risk is pretty low, but people don't exactly want dog hair on their clothes or stray hair making its way into a beer. But perhaps more importantly than potential health risks and fines is that sometimes instead of making a brewery more chill, dogs can do the exact opposite. You might show up to a busy brewery with your friend, and not only do you have to talk over a crowd of people, but add a few excited or barking dogs into the mix and the tap room can get real loud real quick. Also, now instead of a nice, easy stroll up to the bar, you might find yourself in a bit of an obstacle course. You have to move around leashes and excited puppies and watch your step lest you get your feet wet in a water bowl. Personally, I went to a dog-friendly brewery once, but they had kind of a small tap room, and I really had to focus on every step just to get to the bar or to the bathroom, and that didn't exactly jive well with the chill atmosphere they were going for. Finally, dog behavioral issues can be a major boondoggle for breweries. Now, 99% of dog owners are nice and smart people, and they will remove their dog from an area if they are misbehaving. But that 1% of those who aren't as thoughtful can really ruin it for everyone. I don't need to tell you how one bite can lead to a half a dozen lawsuits and more paperwork and legal fees than your neighborhood brewery can handle. Now let's turn our attention away from fur babies and onto human babies, as most taprooms around the country are open to children as well, regardless of whether or not they serve food. Talking heads have argued for generations that alcohol should be drunk in quiet corners away from the eyes of impressionable youths, but Americans now regard this as a largely traditionalist view, especially looking across the Atlantic at Europe, which has much lower rates of youth binge drinking. Most breweries view their tap rooms as good places for families, supplying large tables and board games for all ages. And for the most part, they've been relatively successful in building nice environments. But much like dogs having to watch your ankles for children and their toys can alienate some of the core craft beer audience at the breweries. Kids tend to be loud, and having to talk over a screaming or crying kid is not exactly what you want to do while getting a beer after work to unwind. In addition, kids, and more importantly their activities, tend to take up a lot of valuable table space with coloring books and other such games. In tap rooms that can be challenged for space, you might see people with flights standing in the corner wrangling 4 glasses, while unintended customers take up a lot of precious table space. But there's one problem I see that is not often discussed, but is probably one of the most important, and that is that breweries aren't always the safest places for kids or dogs. I've been in plenty of smaller tap rooms where the brewery space is relatively accessible, separated from tables only by a half wall or sometimes even just a bar or rope that would be really easy for a dog or kid to get around. Even though tap rooms are very chill drinking spaces, they are immediately adjacent to industrial-grade production spaces filled with chemicals, cleaners, boiling water, and large, dangerous equipment. All it takes is a lapse of attention from your child for a few seconds and suddenly they're in danger, and the brewery itself could be in really big trouble. I would really hate to see my favorite neighborhood brewery close because of a mountain of legal and insurance problems stemming from one inattentive parent. Speaking of inattentive parents, almost all of these issues with kids and dogs can easily be solved by just ensuring that their owners are simply paying attention and keeping them out of trouble. I'm pretty happy to say that 99% of parents and dog owners are attentive people who will quickly remove their child or pup if they're causing problems. They only bring their loved ones in if they're well behaved and tend to prepare ahead of time in case they are bored or something goes wrong. Unfortunately for many brewers, that last 1% of bad customers can represent a significant risk to their business. At Loomis Basin Brewing, dogs and kids are not allowed on the premises anymore. We pulled the plug on the whole dog thing 3 or 4 years ago. It's kind of a shame, says owner Kenny Gowan. It comes down to the behavior of 1% of people who ruin it for everyone else. We didn't have any incidents, but people were bringing in big dogs with those extendable leashes on busy nights, and it was a liability issue. We were worried our servers could trip and fall. And many other breweries are following suit around the country, whether it's because of a specific incident or a series of close calls. Many brewery owners are realizing they have a potentially huge liability on their hands. But other brewers are working hard to keep their family and dog-friendly spaces wide open. Those breweries that advertise themselves as dog and kid-friendly generally have publicly posted rules in place to mitigate these issues. If you come in with an extendable leash or your dog misbehaves, you'll be asked to leave. If your child is being loud or getting away from you frequently, you'll be asked to leave. Ultimately, it's on the brewery owner and their staff to post a clear set of rules for dog and child conduct and enforce those rules to keep everyone in line. If breweries do this and do it well, all the issues above are largely mitigated and their tap rooms can remain an opening and welcoming community space for everyone. On a personal note, I love dogs and kids in the brewery space, as long as there are clear rules for them and their parents. So no, I don't hate your dogs or your kids. I just want everyone to be courteous to one another in tap rooms so we can all enjoy the great craft beers out there. What do you think about dogs and kids in breweries? I know this topic can get a bit heated, so please keep the discussion civil in the comments section below. Once again, this has been Ryan with Beer by the Numbers, and I'll see you next week with more laid-back beer content.